Boy Mara chenye dhamani. I was born on 25th December 1932 at Lake Magadi, which is one of the hottest parts on the continent of Africa. I was born here. It's 10 by 10. It used to be 10 by 10. Mimi nilizaliwa hapa. This is still the same building. I was to be named after the name of the father of my mother, Olukhanya. That's my real name. But because I was born on Christmas Day, my father called me Shikuku. Hey, Soba. Habari ya siku nyingi. And I was about 6. So we came to Magadi. When you come from Kisumu, you've got to come all the way to Nairobi. Then you wait for Mombasa train. Then when you reach Konga, you get off, then you get the local one to take you to Magadi. While I was at the Nairobi railway station, I was very interested in seeing the train. There was a train shunting. The locomotive was going forwards and then backwards. That interested me very much. So while I was concentrating watching this, I had somebody pull me from the back. I was wondering what I'd done. And when I looked, I found it was Oyondi. I was not quite amused. So he told me, don't you see Mamsaf? Mamsaf is the wife of a European. If she's passing those days, or a man, a European man passing by, you stand up and stand at attention. If you've got your hat, you remove it. But that lady, what annoyed me at that time, the lady never appreciated the efforts of my daddy. She never looked even. She continued. I can still see her twisting her little buttocks going that way. And that didn't amuse me. I think that's when politics set in. Mimi nilikuwa nikiishi hapa zamani 53. Mzungu alikuwa mtu mbaya sana. Mbona mtulizi? Kwa nini mlipigana na mzungu? Hii ndio nyumba alitujengea. Zilikuwa nzuri. Lakini yeye alikuwa anakaa Mthaiga. Na huko Mthaiga ukienda huko na ukose kujua waenda wapi, unaweza kwenda jela. We toji kauni ya nani? Oh, anajua ya story na kwa rudi. Wakati wako kwako na mondoka Mthaiga, walikuwa na farasi. Sasa ile unarudi anakuchapa viboko na unakiona za kukimbia kushinda farasi. Utatoka huko kote kwa damu. Na alikuwa anatuua tu kama umbwa. Firing. Aya. I was interested in becoming a priest, but as I grew up, I changed my mind. And I thought I should leave the seminary, to live the ordinary life. Later on, I read an advert in the Standard saying that some people who are interested to become train guards should apply. I applied. When I got to Nairobi, I passed my interview. And they just decided to say, "We are taking you now. You're not going back." And that's how I got into the railways, and we were the first Africans to be train guards. Those days, it was only the Europeans and Asians who were allowed to be in charge of a train. Mama used to hide their guns underneath this house. If you exhume them, you must get some ammunition. During the Mau Mau, somebody came to me and said, "We have got to get guns from Nairobi. These guns must be transported to area of war. You know, Nyeri, Karatina, and others. We want somebody to help us." So I said I could do it. I used to carry Mau Mau fighters. They used to keep their guns in the sacks of charcoal. And I used to pick them up from Dandora and offload them at Naromoro, that hill. The train, when the train is going slowly, they push the bags out and they can jump off. The interesting part of it, they used to ask me, umekula kiapo? Ulikula ile kitu? Nikauliza kitu gani? Kiapo. I said, no. And then how do we trust you? I told him, I don't have to take that oath. I can kill you without even taking water. I believed they were fighting for freedom. So I used to give them a lift in my brake van. It has got a place for luggage. So I take these makas as luggage. And they themselves go in and I lock them up. So when I reach there, I just open, they get out, they push their bags out and they alight. And I had a friend of mine he's from Kefa, from Butsotso. Things went very well for me because you'd put less steam so that the train goes even slower for them to jump without hurting themselves. But he's now dead. He was hanged. He was caught when I'd left for Tanganyika, and he now was trying to carry them in his engine. So they caught him red-handed one day, and he was hanged in Nairobi prison here. Sera ribe nimekanyaga washangwe ya Joni na Sera manangu Sera masera ni bati masera niki. When I came to Nairobi and having left railways, I was the first African to be employed in Caltex headquarters. Salama mama. Bala siku nyingi. Mambo. Salam. Mambo.
Mzuri sana mheshimiwa.
Tembea tunataka kukumbuka historia. Hii street ilikuwa inaitwa Sadler House Mbaleni. Na mimi nilikuwa hapa Mwafrika wa kwanza kuandikwa hapa katika Caltex headquarters. On 27th October and September 1956.
Okay.
While I was there, I was interviewed and I passed and they told you have got the job. I was the first African. Then more Africans came in. Why I became a trade union is also through frustration. I could teach. I knew the job so well that there was a Mzungu who was very impressed with me, and I used to teach the Asians also the job. But the only difference is that they were getting more salaries than me, the teacher, and that's how I got into trade union to do something about it. So we founded a trade union known as Kenya Petroleum Oil Workers Union with the late Makanyengo. He was the Secretary General. I was elected Deputy Secretary General. And then as trade unions, we used to meet with Mboya, who was Secretary General of KFL, Kenya Federation of Labour. Before that, there was KAU, which was a countrywide organization. But after the emergency was declared, when they opened up a bit for us to organize ourselves politically, that's where in 1959, we had parties formed by various districts. I cannot forget the day KANU was born. It was 1960, May 15th, Saturday, Kiambu Social Hall. And that's where KANU was born. And we disagreed because of the election, the way they were carried out. And of course, Mr. Gichuru was elected chairman. Odinga was elected vice chairman. Tom Joseph Mboya was elected Secretary General, and others. But we found there was a pre-arranged sort of thing. We thought we were just going to do. So people like Ronald Gideon Gala, Masinde Mliro, Ole Tipis, John Keane, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, myself, we formed the Kenya African Democratic Union on 10th July in Gong, where we used to be called the meat eaters because a lot of cattle was slaughtered for us to celebrate the birth of Kenya African Democratic Union. I was elected the national youth leader, and in 1961 when I held the election, I was promoted to the Secretary General of the party. We had two parties now, KANU and KADU. So in 1961 we went to election, and KANU won. and Kadu was second, opposition party. So we went to the opposition. And in the same year, 1961, I think Tom Joseph Mboya and Ronald Gideon Gala went to Lancaster to prepare for the conference in 1962. When they came back, 1962, that's when we were called to go to Britain. Our fares and the rest were paid for by the British government. When we got to London, they asked us what type of constitution would you like to have? So we said we don't want to be controlled from Britain. So we want our own government, which will have central government, but the powers, finances, and other things will be decentralized to majimbos or to the provinces, so that we have fair, equitable distribution of both power and resources. When Moi declared there's going to be a war, and the Standard made a headline of that, front page. So when he went to Lancaster in the morning, that he is now late, Duncan Sands was furious. And we found him very red, like a lobster, you see. When they get hungry, they become very red. And as we sat there, I said, he asked Ngala, am I still to believe you are the chairman of a civilized democratic party in the name of Kadu? Or are you the leader of violence, or you are a warmonger? So Ngala didn't answer him. Then before he answered him, he threw him the East African Standard. Read that. So Ngala was not excited. He was very cool. He's a leader. Even if he came to power, I will still be his follower. So what Ngala did, he took his own time, got his pipe, he looked for sweet nut tobacco, loaded it in, taking his own time, he lit it. Then he pulled, then left a big cloud, let out a big cloud of smoke towards Duncan Sands. We couldn't see Duncan Sands. Then he pulled again and left a huge cloud of smoke towards Kenyatta's group. We couldn't see them. And then one in us. Then he took the paper, pretending to read, you see. And when the smoke had died down, we found him still pretending to read. Then he said, threw the paper back to Duncan Sands and told him, I am not the editor of that paper. I'm not a partner. That's the first time I heard the word Lonro. You may know more about it because this is London, Rhodesia paper. So you don't expect, I'm here with you. When did I go to Kenya to do this? So the only logical thing is to ask the Secretary General to go and find out what happened to warrant this publicity here. But then Duncan Sands was a very nice man. I like him. He said, agreed. We had 5 problems. 1, independence. We wanted to be independent. 2, the colonials who were here, farmers, the settlers, did not want to hear anything of it. We had the Somali, the northeastern province, which wanted to secede to Great Somalia. 4, we had this issue of Mwambao, the coastal strip, the 10 miles coastal strip. 5, we had the Maasai problem, where in Maasai United Front, they said we are few. They were actually less than half a million. They said their land, if we become independent, the land will be taken. They wanted a guarantee that their land should not be taken. Now, how was this solved? That's where I have very nice feeling of the late Duncan Sands. He started with the coastal strip, because Zanzibar was claiming that coastal strip, which was on the mainland of Kenya. He asked the question, I think it's Kenya which would demand or could claim Zanzibar, because it's an island. It must have come from the mainland. The British government will pay you, I think it was 600,000 pounds sterling as compensation. One. Two, for the Somalis who want to succeed to Great Somali, that cannot be allowed. Why? Because it's going to contravene the Berlin Conference, which made the borders. And British alone cannot decide. So the border will remain as it is. The settlers will buy you out, and that land which you took from those fellows will go back to them, which they did. As far as the issue of Uhuru, you will be independent on 12th December 1963. And before that, you shall have self-internal government from 62 to 63. Then you become independent. He solved those 5 problems just like that. When we became independent and we had two-party system, the main difference between us and Kanu wanted all the power to be centralized. The only difference then was we are not now being controlled from Whitehall in Britain, but we are now being controlled from Nairobi. So this is what we did not like. If we'd refused the Whitehall, we equally thought we should refuse Nairobi. We wanted the people to have the say of what they want, how they want it to be done. That's why we thought of decentralizing of power, resources, and finances to the provinces and down to the sub-location. I was not very happy with the Kanu right from the outset. You'd recall even way back in 1964, when all the Kadu people crossed from Kadu to Kanu, I was the only one left in the opposition. They crossed because they found it is futile to fight against such a majority in Kanu. The first defect, of course, was Daniel Torotich Arap Moi. And then later on, people were moving one by one, and until it reached a stage where when Ngala, who was the leader, decided to cross with the remaining people. Even Serone crossed, my biggest friend crossed. And then I heard it on the radio when I was coming from Butere that Kadu has crossed over to the government and the statement would be made later. And I drove on, came to Parliament. When I opened the door, the whole Parliament shouted that I should cross. And I looked at them and I decided these people who are shouting that I should cross never elected me. I was elected by Butere. So I bowed to the chair and walked to the right, or to the right of the speaker, and sat down. That's the opposition. And I had to go to Butere to ask the permission to find out the views of the people. I was defeated by 7 votes. We voted at a rally, and it was counted, and I was defeated by 7 votes. When I told my leader, Mr. Ngala, that what you have done by killing the opposition will bring a lot of problems in this country, because without opposition, people will not know what the government is doing. And for that, to re-establish opposition in this country will cost people's lives, and many will be maimed. And it came to pass. And immediately they joined Kanu. We had to lose first MP who was assassinated. He was called Gama Pio Pinto. And because there was no opposition to pursue it, I tried to move a motion to have a select committee of the House to look into the assassination of Gama Pio Pinto. And you know, when you draft a motion, you are supposed to sell it to look for a seconder. Wherever I went to, they all just told me, forget it. He's a Muhindi. And then in 1969, Tom Mboya was assassinated. I think Tom was too ambitious and he was nicely used by Kenyatta. And he did all the filth, destroying what we had done in London. After it centralized all the powers, he handed them to Kenyatta, who became immediately an imperial president. And since then, they've been having imperial presidents. And for his job, he was paid handsomely. Instead of getting lunch, he was given 3 bullets in his chest. Tom Mboya was shot there at 1 o'clock, where you have that UNESCO assurance company. That was a pharmacy. It was political assassination, and I don't know why, in remembrance of Mboya, why this street was not called after him. Why push it to the next street? Now that one street is called Tom Mboya, but Tom Mboya was shot here. So I failed to go through with Gama Pinto's motion. Now I drafted another one to establish a select committee to look into the assassination of Tom Joseph Mboya. But when I went round with my motion, I got the uniform answer: this is too hot, this is too hot, this is too hot. Then I approached my friend, the best friend, and that's J.M. Karaoke. So I approached him and I said, have a look at this motion. He looked at it, read it, said, yes, it's good. Then I want you to second it. He said, no, you can't be serious. I said, no, I'm serious, Martin. I'm not going to second it. We were friends. Oh, we became big friends. That's why I went to him, because I knew he was a brave man, somebody with the principles. But to my surprise, this time he turned me down. And I got angry and I told him, and wherever he's hearing me, told him so. Today is Tom, tomorrow will be you, and the day after me. So I'm waiting for my day also. Then in March 2nd of 75, Jem went missing. I rang his home. Terry told me he was not there. He said, but I was with him when I left here, and the workers here are telling me his car is still parked here, and he left here with Ben Gedhi. Well, could you find out from Ben Gedhi? That's how the investigation started. When I got into Parliament, we raised the points of order to ask where JM is. Minister for Home Affairs, and I was an assistant minister in that Home Affairs, was Mr. Daniel Teacher of Moi. He stood up and made an official statement to the effect that Jem is fine, he's not arrested, he's free. One day, we heard noises outside Parliament. A woman was yelling, and that day we had little business, so we adjourned the house early, and we found just his wife, Terry. That's how what is happening. He said, oh, Jem is dead. Jem is in the mortuary. And then all of us, without any organization, each guy got in his car and drove to the mortuary. We are now pulling those fridges, the dead bodies is compartment looking. So we didn't see him in all these enclosures. And when we were about to go, I saw a certain group of some Luos were sitting there, and there was a dead body. I looked at it and I thought that was JM. So I went closer and I found it was him. I think somebody, before they killed him, they beat him and he lost the lower teeth. The body now being prepared to be taken by the relatives away. Those were Luos. And when I said, this is JM, when my colleagues disagreed with me, the lady, Terry said, yes, Shikuku is right, that is JM. And then if you want to know it's him, open up his trousers, you'll find a scar on his left or right. So when they opened the trousers, they found he had a scar. And therefore the police immediately called in the, what we call, these fellows who take the fingerprint experts, came and took his fingerprints. And after half an hour, they said it was him. And when this issue happened, these fellows who were waiting to take the body just evaporated. They just disappeared. I didn't know where they went. They were waiting to take their beloved one. Then we established a committee to look into the JM's report. This time, we sat down with Serone and we decided that we drafted the motion with Serone and gave it to Mwangali, now late Mwangali, to move it. And the way we managed to get that motion is a masterpiece, because B.T. Marty, the speaker, was under instruction never to allow that motion to come before the House. When we reached that order, Mr. Speaker decided that we don't debate, we go to the next motion. He ruled that this is not going to be debated. But then it occurred to me, he normally goes for his tea between 10 and 11. And Serone would be in the chair. So what I did, I left Parliament and went and saw him in his office and told him, I'll use standing order number 45K, which is a motion. Understand, for 45, standing order number 5, you can move motions without notice. A substantive motion must be given notice of a week or two before the debate. But there are motions you can move without notice. So I went and saw the Deputy Speaker and told him, when you come in, I would like to use standing order number 45KL to move adjournment of the debate now on the floor to enable us to go back to the motion on JM. He said, you're right. Now when I come in, you go, while I'm still here, go and campaign and make sure that nobody raises an objection. And when he came in, he bowed to the chair. The Speaker handed over to him and he left for tea. After I had gone for a while, I stood up on point of order. Yes, Mr. Shikuku, what's your point of order? Mr. Speaker, I would like to use standing order number 45L to enable us to adjourn the debate on the motion now before the House, so that we can go back to that motion, which I consider very important in connection with the death of the member for Nyandarua North. Then he looked around. Any objection? There was none. Agreed. We moved back. Mr. Mwangali was called upon. He moved that motion so fast, and he didn't want to waste a lot of time, and he was informally seconded. We started our work. It was very difficult. We advertised for anybody to appear before the committee, and we had the powers to summon anybody. We went on summoning a lot of those who thought knew something about. And there was somebody, one of the drivers at the Hilton Hotel, whom we called. He came to our committee and he just continued crying. He didn't say anything, he was just crying. He was so terrified, he couldn't open his mouth and tell us exactly what happened on that day. And he had been beaten up before he came to our place, and he was told to keep his mouth, and that's exactly what he did. He was just crying throughout, terrified. And then we got another one who told us that he saw Ben Geddy with JM living in one white car, leaving the JM's car parked at Hilton. And that was the last I saw of him. We summoned Ben Geddy, who appeared before us towards the end. There are many others I could, to make the long story short, we called who appeared before us. We later on came to the conclusion, and we were actually about to be arrested to cover up the whole thing. So we had to hurry up. And then we have a subcommittee which was made up of 4 people: Serone, myself, Mr. Gresonyango, Brud Nabwera, 4, to draft the final, taking into account the evidence we had received from various people, and we drafted a report. But when it came to voting, it was quite something. We had campaigned, we worked so hard that we defeated the government by 3 votes. And those 3 votes, do you know where they came from? From the government itself. Muliro was a cabinet minister, he voted with us. Peter Kibisu was assistant minister, he voted with us. Bwana John Keane, who is still alive, voted with us. So we defeated the government and adopted the report with the majority of 3 votes. Shauri moyo nyumba za tobako, nikamuuliza kama ana bwana, akanijibu sina hata mpenzi. Tulipolala kasikia hodi hodi, fungueni ni mimi mwenye nyumba. This is the tobacco singing about. When I was in parliament, because I never used to bribe them, I used to talk for them. Today, wakubwa wanawapa kitu kidogo, wakifika huko hawasemi maneno yenu. But that's something mwananchi ajue. Unapopewa kitu kidogo, akienda huko bunge, anakusahau. Ni kama alinunua wewe. Ukiuliza huyu mkubwa, hii nguo nzuri, unaweza kuniambia jina yule ulinunua? Tusiende mbali, tuanze nao. Unaweza kukumbuka ule? Kwa nini? Ulimpa nini? Na akakupa nini? Lakini kama alikupa bure, utakumbuka yeye. Mkubwa hawezi kusema maneno yenu. Mimi nilitoka huko, hawasemi maneno yenu. Ni mshahara hao watapata namna gani? Hawezi kutoa ushuru. Hawataki. Unaona hapa, huyo mjimbo wenu hapa unamuona hapa. Anatembea namna hii. Na anaanza
alikuwa anauza viatu hapa.
Siku hizi huwezi kuingia bunge kama huna nini. Na nyinyi mnataka kitu kidogo. Kwa hivyo akishanunua, akifika bunge hata sema maneno yako, itambidi apate arudishe ile anakuibia tena. Siwezi kununulia chochote. This is what has killed you. Unanunua, unakula, unakwenda choo, kesho unataka tena. I don't want to buy you. I will sitaki. Shikuku. Na huyu ni mtu wa Butere huyu. Asante. Na mimi hata watu wa Butere siwanunuli. Hii ndio kitu inafanya wakubwa wafanye nini ya kufagilia matope. Because they give you something small, then anasahau. Asante. Okay, I'll say asante. No, you see, these MPs they buy their way into parliament. They have no feeling for the people. They are afraid of the people. I was not a lover of Kanu, and therefore, when Kanu was becoming too powerful and dictatorial, I thought something must be done to counter it. And of course, I paid for it once upon a time when I called it was dead and ended up in detention. You are not supposed to be prosecuted for whatever you say on the floor of the parliament. He used his power to order for our arrest right from the parliament and straight into jail. There are 2 types of prisons. There is this solitary confinement. That's the deadliest type of incarceration. A human being, which I discovered, is a social animal. But if you take him out and keep him alone, he can go nuts. That's the worst type of incarceration, because sometimes they keep you underground cells where you don't know whether it's day or night, and you are under light, very strong lights. And somebody just opens the door and pushes the food in. You just see disappearing hands. You don't see the guy who brought the food. Then you start debating within yourself. Do I take this? Who is this? Who brought this? What did he put in this? But of course your stomach would always triumph by ordering you to eat it. The guards who are watching over you are normally 3 at a time. They spy on each other to find out which one of them talks to you. So you have nobody to ask a question. And the way they wear their watches is very different from the normal way. You cannot see. And if you ask them, they were given one answer. Unataka kwenda wapi? Hii jela. I survived the ordeal because I used to occupy myself with I can take one of my children. Just think of one kid, how the mother behaved when he was pregnant, and how it came into how naughty the kid was, and God knows what. have one day. Since I had 16 kids, I could spend 16 days just thinking about them. Now I was also imagining this one now is in standard 8, that one has done CPE, is going to Form 1, this must be in Form 2.
Me, I was born after detention. So, as I've heard from my brothers and sisters, life was pretty tough. Because when he was in detention, many people, friends, except family, friends, they were afraid, the regime at the time. So they could not come see them as much as they could do. But they were pretty, very tough times during the time when he was in detention.
When he left, you had to get ways of looking after the family. You had to cut on some of the costs, make sure that the children have food on the table, and also cloth-wise and so on. Health-wise, you had to take care of them. Writing to him was almost impossible because sometimes the letters would not reach him. They had to go through it and censor. Yeah, they used to censor the letter so much so that you would not know what was happening at home. And at home, we'd think he had received the letter when he had not received. Some of the books also would not reach him. So that's how it was. So it was difficult. We would only wait for the opportunity to meet. And at the same time, even if you met him, we had those police officers. Like me, he would be the one speaking my language. And then the other lawyers, at least there was a wife who was a Luo. There would also be somebody from Luo land who would be understanding. If we communicated in Kijaluo or whatever, he would understand and then communicate to the big ones. It was difficult, but then we had to survive. So whatever little I was getting as a salary, it was very little as a civil servant. It was very little, and we had children in school. Some of them were still young, but then we had to go on. That time, I was working as a secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs. Office-wise, it was very difficult for me, especially because I was working for a permanent secretary. And he was considered as an opponent of the government. So they didn't want us or me to work in a big office where maybe I would leak out the secrets of the government to those who are not supposed to know. I remember the time when this Henry Kissinger, when he visited Kenya. At that time, I was working in the office of the president, and the office was in Harambee House. So they did not want me to be in Harambee House because they thought maybe I would arrange to have this something happen to Kissinger, which was a lie, of course. I didn't have anything against him. So those were the such things that would trouble my mind, because I was not a security risk, but they thought I was.
The difference between a detainee and a prisoner is that the detainee is within the prison, but there's an area within the prison which no warder is allowed to go to the detention section. And so you have special warders to look after the detainees. They don't look after. You can hear the prisoners making noise there. There's normally, in Kamiti you have a wall of 25 feet. And Shimalatewa the same, and in Naivasha. But Manyani is the one I liked best because there's no high wall there, 25 feet. You can see cars or lorries going or coming from going to Mombasa or coming from Mombasa. And that noise alone is a part of life. The noise is you hear. This sun, which you say is very hot, is a part of, when I went to detention I had some hairs, but you can see I lost them because of lack of the sunshine. And your teeth normally become very sensitive, and your hair cuts. I went on hunger strike because I lost the powers in my leg, and I was asking for crutches, but they couldn't give me. So I said, I'm going on a hunger strike because of my crutches. 2 other detainees should be allowed to be out from 6 to 6 in the evening, where they can do exercise and also play drafts. And I was sick because I used to eat and vomit. I had to attend Kenyatta Hospital, Mtula Wing. And I used to get so thin, so I come for refilling. They'll pump this water into you with some medicine so that you swell up. Then when I used to consume 30, 34, the highest was 34 liters. And when you are there also, they have your legs tied to the bed. You are more or less crucified to the bed, then you lie flat. When they have consumed up to 30, 34, you feel better also. And then they remove them, and then you are put in the car back to the prison. When I had finished 5 days of that food, they used to push it in as usual. When they come in the morning, they find not even touched. I did not even take water. So after 5 days, the guy came in, Olopokoet was the superintendent at committee, and he came and said, this is not parliament. We have seen many of you alike who went on hunger strike and later on ate, and if you do not eat, we shall forcefully feed you through your nostrils. And this is Dr. Bauri, was somebody who qualified in 1934. And he even used to tell me, I said, Mr. Shikuku, what I can do, all I'm doing my job. But I can tell him, Mahatma Gandhi, when he was in prison, they don't give him medicine, they used to give him quinine all the time. And he used to give us, for whatever disease you have, they'll give you quinine or one of these funny medicines. So, but he survived and he came out. You'll survive. He used to give me some pep talk. And so the superintendent told me, I have a doctor here. And he came with a big retinue, the first officers, the surgeons and so forth, plus the doctor. Said, this is Dr. Bauri. If you refuse to eat, Dr. Bauri will sign your death certificate and I shall close your file. And that will be the end of it. So he went, I asked him, have you finished? He said, yes. Then I told him, you talk like a woman. You talk too much. Don't feed me through my nostrils with a rubber tube. Bring a metal tube to forcefully feed me through my nostrils. And leave my cell. I'm waiting for you. That was 5th day, 6th day, 7th day, 8th day, 9th day. I went. I just don't know. I had a very big sleep. I only found myself in Mtula Wing, Kenyatta Hospital. I saw a sister and asked her, what are you doing in my cell? You said, this is not your cell. You are in the hospital. Who brought me here? I never asked to come to the hospital. He said, the officers from prison brought you here. Then Dr. Mongola asked me, do you know me? I said, yes, Dr. Mongola. But my bed was lifted up so that my head was down and the leg side is up. We asked him, well, what's all this? He said, well, we had to save you. If you slept flat and there's shortage of blood in your brain, you die. So we did that so that the blood can go on your brain. So now that you know me, he ordered those sisters to remove those stools. They had put the stools which they had put on the hind legs of the bed. We removed them, it became normal. Then I said, I want to go home. I don't want any treatment from you, and I'll take no medicine from you, Dr. Mungala. I want to go back to cell number 7, committee prison. He said, you have a right. If you don't want me to treat you, you can look for another doctor. I don't want any doctor. So I said, agreed. But why do you go on hunger strike? Because they have asked for crutches, they refused to give me. And there are other detainees there who are not given enough time for sunshine. I want them to be, their cells to be open at 6 and closed at 6 p.m. And is that all? I said, yes. He made arrangements. I got the crutches and the other detainees, including, we can ask Wamwere, is one of those. When I asked him, Wamwere can talk tough, but he can't talk tough before me. They gave me a nickname that Shoka Isio Nampini. They called me, I was an axe without the handle. And you know, you can't cut anything with an axe without a handle. So they were free from, they were allowed to stay out from 6 to 6. And I got my crutches. Actually, I survived the ordeal because I knew everything has an end. Namely, for example, there's always an end to a wedding. It can't go on forever. And there's also an end to funeral. So I knew one day I'd be out. 12th December 1978. That morning when I was being released, they gave me a telegram. I thought somebody was congratulating me for my being released, only to find it was telling me about my mom's death in August. Actually, she died after Kenyatta. I did not know even Kenyatta died until I was released. And I asked, Moi cannot release me. They said, no, Moi is now the president. People talk of justice, but I say they don't know what is justice until they taste injustice. Just to be arrested for nothing, thrown into the cells, and you are not seeing your family, you are not allowed to communicate, you are there, the lights are on both day and night, then only shall you get the message to know it's wrong to incarcerate a fellow human being. And when I think of it, I feel very, very bad, very bad. So Kenyatta, do we sing hallelujah for what he did? How's the suffering of our family? We don't have to talk about it because he's dead. Salam, alhamdulillah. I go to places that are lowly, but good. I don't have this air of feeling big, talking big, eating big. I'm very average. Salam, alhamdulillah. I like whole. For example, when I'm taking bread, I take brown bread because it's whole food. When I'm taking ugali, I prefer having that red one, where it's made out of millet and fish, chicken, stewed chicken, and I like these greens, this bitter type of greens. I can survive it in any time. I survived in jail, and I can survive anywhere. And that one even gave me more training. It gave me a lot of time to think. And sometimes what I say, some people find it very unusual and conventional. I can speak with authority. Kenyatta he was an opportunist. He was not a nationalist. He was picked up by those who started KCA, Kikuyu Central Association, because he was able to speak and write English. Kenyatta did not like Majimbo because he had a special agenda. He had the Kiambu district, for example, take this Kiambu district. They are not congested. There's their acreage of land here is quite big. Kiambu is as it was during the colonial days. What happened is the European moved away, but it's controlled by 58 Kikuyu big Kikuyus. And they sent away all other Kikuyus from that area. And when it came to Moi's time, Moi said, I'll follow the Nyayos. And I think I can't blame him very much. And he really followed the Nyayos and even went beyond those Nyayos of Kenyatta. If it's land grabbing, he did. If some people being assassinated, that happened. If this question of some people being richer than others, that has happened. And so he is flattering Nyayo. If you say Moi should die for having eaten government money and his stooges, very many people will die with him because he was so generous. Police, army, nani, kila mtu alikula. Today, if you said all those who were given money by him should die, many people will die. We did not like the Kanu policy. There was no policy as such because they had to go with whatever Moi said. So when they go to Kasarani, if Moi calls this house, for example, a church, they will all say, yes, it is a church. If he changes his mind and say, this is now a hotel, they'll say, yes, it is a hotel. It's only 6 of us who said this cannot go on forever, and therefore we must have an alternative. And therefore, we also consider the question, do the people really participate in the policy making of the party? We wanted the people to be involved right from the outset, where the people have to make decisions. And that's why we came up with these people, with this slogan, let the people decide. Now I can remember how in the second liberation, how we went to Kamkunji. We followed this route. The policemen were pursuing us and we were ahead of them. And the BBC car and one of CD diplomatic corps car, 2 of them, were following behind us. Many people confuse Sabasaba, which was an organization Mr. Matiba and Charles Rubia were trying to form opposition because he resigned from the government to try and form this. And his first meeting was supposed to be in Kamkunji. He called for it, people went there. But when he found things were hot, the two developed cold feet, and they did not go to Kamkunji. And as a result, 21 lives were lost. Wananchi went to Kamkunji, and their leaders were not there. The police killed a lot of people, 21 died, and many were made. We were arrested. Shamala, myself, Osinde Mliro, and Orengo. There was no democracy. So we had to get a forum for restoring that democracy. That's how Ford came into existence. We had to fight against Kanu, which was dictatorial.
Ford sio chama cha Shikuku, sio chama cha Odinga, sio chama cha Mliro, sio chama cha Gachoka, sio chama cha Bwana Bamaris, sio chama cha mtu yote, ni chama cha wananchi. Nife leo au kesho kutwa, chama kitafanya nini? Hili ni jambo tumewaletea nyinyi wananchi, mshikilie kwa mikono yote. Jambo tunapigana nalo ni wale walio wengi, maneno yao yafanye nini? Na nyinyi muwe na uhuru wa kupiga kura nyinyi wenyewe, hapana delegate kwa yule mtu mnapenda.
They thought we had no following, but when they saw that meeting at Kamkunji, they realized people have changed, and Moi changed accordingly.
Uhuru! There is no justice in Kenya. There's no justice for a commoner. Justice depends who you are. A commoner, if he steals 1 vote, he goes in for 7 years and 14 strokes. Those who steal millions and millions of money, they don't even enter the police cell. They will have a medical man to check him, and they said, this man is very sick, he can't go, he's free.
Yaani mimi nitakuwa nikisema maneno na kutupa kijiti cha ukweli, na kukiwako mtu wa KANU au rafiki ya KANU achukue hiki kijiti kama si cha kweli arudishe. KANU haipendi sheria, chama cha walagai. Leo anasema Mungai Njoroge ni vice chairman, na katiba ya KANU haina vice chairman. Na mtukufu mtakatifu Moi, kura ilipokwisha akasema kura, na watu tukapiga kelele, kura imeba, laini refu ndio imeshindwa, laini fupi ndio imeshinda. Hii mliona mkuona? Na wengine bado wapakana tena nini wewe mmoja.
Moi had to succumb to the weight. If there's any credit to be given to Moi, that is he's capable of reading the mood of the people, and he accordingly changes.
Ili tuone hawa walio katika siasa, wale walio watumishi wa serikali, sisi tuseme kwamba tufungue, tuondoe ile section ya katiba ya Kenya ya 2A.
And Moi had a very good network. He could even talk to a headman here. His network was very extensive. Kibaki doesn't have that, and he'll never have that. But if the Katiba was followed to the letter, Kenya would be very, very far. You were in Bomas. We did the job. We had enough time. We spent a lot of money.
I guess of the people who were there, he was the most articulate. He was the best informed of them all, because he played a rather important role as a kind of senior, almost executive officer, advisor, and seems to have a very good memory. And so that was my first real contact, and we got on very well. And then I consulted him occasionally as we went on in our work, and he was always very helpful. On the substantive issues, he clearly was a reformer. His whole life struggle was about reform, and here he got another chance in Burma to shape the constitution, and he was a very diligent member. You see, a lot of members would come, sign, collect allowance, disappear. But I think he attended most sessions, and he was certainly among the more diligent. Not only in attendance, but in reflecting on the issues that we were debating. And I think because of his experience, his integrity, he commanded a lot of respect. And there were very many moments when Bomas got out of control. 625 people in a room with bad acoustics and so on. So he was somebody, we all turned to in those moments to restore some calm. and because of the respect he enjoyed, he performed that role. We, of course, ran into difficult times. I think once Moi did not like the process, and he tried to sabotage it. And indeed, he dissolved Parliament a day before the formal opening of the Bomas. And then, of course, we couldn't meet because members of Parliament were ex officio members, and once Parliament was dissolved. So we had to wait. And then once Kibaki was elected, Kibaki and his alliances, colleagues, lost all interest. And they tried everything to disperse us, to sabotage our work. And at that time, I truly realized the qualities of Martin. When we did resume and move to committee stage, he was a member of the most popular committee on the executive, as you can imagine. My admiration for him continued, and his energy and his commitment and sobriety. I mean, he's just a wonderful person.
Right now. Because we, in the Kenya, we don't look and order.
No. When we went for a referendum, 2005, the church abdicated their responsibility. When they came out openly and said, you can read the constitution here and vote the way you want. When they failed to tell us the truth is particularly with the Catholics, can speak with authority. They met and they disagreed. They came and told us a lie by saying, you vote, just read the constitution, vote the way you are. That was a lie. They abdicated their responsibility. They ceased to be the shepherds of Christ's people.
Draft constitution ndio hii tutapewa baada ya mkutano, ambao ilitengenezwa na wajumbe 629 na hii katiba iliundwa kufuatana na sheria.
And Kibaki himself had to admit that we won.
The seal has been affixed and it is presented to His Excellency the President, who will now wave it to all of us as the fanfare is being played.
Habari yako?
Sasa unasemaje?
Mimi naenda shambani.
Wewe naenda shambani, wewe natuacha sisi njaa bwana.
Unataka kufanyaje?
Iko njaa mzee, iko njaa.
So wajumbe wenu yangu walipeuza mahindi. Tangu lini sisi tulipokuwa kwa bunge tuliuza mahindi yenu? Na wewe mlisema mnataka vijana. Sasa wamekula mahindi. Vuneni. Vuneni machungu. Sasa ni vijana.
Mzee tunavuna machungu na tulipiga haki yetu na tukuiona.
Lakini kwa sababu ulipewa kitu kidogo ndio kapiga. Sasa yule anakwenda kule mpaka apate ile alitoa.
Sasa mzee unataka tu hivyo.
Siwezi kufanya nini? Mimi tangu niwe kwa siasa nilitoa chai. Never. That's why I spoke for you. Na wale waliotoa chai waseme maneno yako.
Hawasemi.
Wamenyamaza. Wamenyamaza.
Jana tulikuwa na mtaka sema.
According to my sub-clan, Luhya club, a wife belongs to the society, to your clan. My mother was commissioned by my father to look for a girl. I was not consulted. And then I had to marry another one. This is the one who was with the VOK, Dolly, Achien. And then because I was a member of parliament, I needed somebody at home. I met Beverly Ongecha. She was working with the post office. I had to get another one to stay in Butere. The constituency was so big, somebody would live about 20 miles away coming to see the MP. And you find him very tired. So I used to have maize and big beans cooked ready there and big pan with the porridge so that he takes porridge plus this to get the strength to walk back. So I needed somebody there. So you can see now that comes to 4. See March 2009.
I don't have my own.
March, yeah.
It's expired. March is ending on Tuesday.
Doesn't matter. You can use it.
So you want to kill me?
You can't kill it. It doesn't kill you. Dambis will kill you, not me. Dambi. Yes, one your God has had enough.
Kama wewe ni mbaya anakupatia nafasi.
Yes, but
tubu dhambi zako kabla hajakuita.
My children, I didn't have much time with them. because I was too busy with the politics, so I decided to take them all to boarding schools. Despite the fact these children came from various women, 4 women, I've never had a time. I'm realizing that now. When I sat down to settle a case or somebody fought another or beat somebody, and all their mothers never quarreled.
I can say his politics take much of the time, but he's a very good father, takes care of us. We have many, by the way, in our family, but he can be strict at times. He was a good disciplinarian, especially when he was small. Because I remember one time we were from school, you know, at the end of the term when you come with the school reports, the first thing you see what number are you? And you say, oh, I was number 7. Last time, which number are you? Number 2. How many cans are those? Something like that. So you'll always, when the closing of the term comes, you are always nervous about your report and which position will be. The values he has taught us most: truthfulness and being realistic, not being, the word I can use, being realistic about what you can do at a certain time, and not, by the way, living within your means, not being too greedy. That's one virtue has really instilled in us, not being greedy, trying to get as much as you can, any way you can. If you can get something, you can get it through a positive way, not through any way means possible, as it's pretty much what it is in the world nowadays. The biggest lesson about life I've learned from my dad is that you take things step by step. You live day by day. Don't have very big plans. You can have plans because it's good to have plans in life, but you have to take them one step at a time and not be overambitious in what you are doing or what you are trying to achieve. But be focused. That's what I've learned most from him, because he has stayed focused and principled at the same time to what he thinks, to certain values he deems they are right.
Something is wrong with your women. They suffer from inferiority complex. They would rather look like Europeans to be satisfied that they are really beautiful. That I cannot understand. There's no difference between a graduate and standard 8 or standard 0. They just don't know they are beautiful. Our women are beautiful by nature. They don't need any additives to treat their skins. Their skins just need a bit of oil. That's all. And you find our women now chommering their hair and even trying to block one of the eyes. I don't know what's wrong with these women. They want to look like Europeans. I have no time for them, and I make no secret about it. My mother, she was a wonderful woman. She was very intelligent, highly disciplined. She disciplined us, made us what we are. My father also was very interesting in the sense that he told us point blank, this is your mother, but this is my wife. You have got your wife. My mother will never be the ayah or a babysitter for your kids. So you have to carry your cross. Sometimes we used to pretend that we leave our wives at home to help mom. And you know what he'll do? After 4 or 5 days, he doesn't see you, gives her transport to go where you are. Because he says, your mom is my wife, you keep your wife. I don't want 2 wives here. And imagine those days, if you had 101 shillings, you were given 15-acre plot with a kang'ombe. For this one, I paid 4,335 for 100 acres. And this farm, you should build this way, and others can build on the other side, so that the farm is in the middle. This is my plan. And it should never be fragmented. I no longer fear death. I know one day I'll pass away. So you should be ready spiritually and also ready physically. I've even had to make my own grave. It's ready. My coffin is ready. And as I know, since you come from far parts of the country, when you come from a funeral, I've kept 4 bulls for you to eat. And always there must be 50 bags of maize in my store for that purpose.
My co-wife passed away. So the grave was supposed to be started on somewhere in the night. But then there was nobody to do it. So those people around here don't like, young men do not dig graves. That's what we were told. So we had to get those young men from Butere and Nairobi who escorted the body to go and start on the grave. So when he saw this Mzee, he decided that he will do it. He will dig his grave before he dies. But when he dug his, I said, okay, I don't mind having mine also done.
You know, I imagine when you die, and when Jesus comes on the clouds and the trumpet is sounded, everybody will get up, both the living and the dead. So you don't have to come out taking earth from your ears. So all I do is just to adjust my bow tie and get on. When some people will be busy taking some soil from your ears. I'm very particular. No speeches here. And I'll be most obliged if the big boys did not turn up. I don't want to allow them to come and shed crocodile tears here. They don't know where I am, what I eat. I've done something for this nation. Nobody recognized that. I don't want to be recognized when I'm dead. I'm making arrangements to buy another, what I would call transit coffin from Lee Funeral, and also commission them to come and lower my body into my grave. I'll pay them in advance. I know some people, some taller, some shorter, and sometimes the tall ones lift it too high and it goes for the short ones. And so they've got to shout, please go down there and help the other one. That noise in my grave is out of order. I think our leaders today should make an effort to recall, to remember. You don't have to give them, just remember so-and-so did this, so-and-so did this. What has happened to his kids? And we have been fighting for Dedan Kimathi to be recognized. It's only the other day that they put up a small statue somewhere there. Hey, hey, hey. Ario. Aya. Abana.
Nakupenda sababu wewe ni Martin Shikuku. Unaishi na wewe kwa hii boma. Umetumika kama afisa vijana.
Asante.
Asante kuku.
Aya.
Asante.
Ario.
Kwako ngene.
Ario.
Wamele.
Ebe blana khensa ingo. Nabacheni banja.
Asante.
Aya.
Hawa ni mabosi wako.
Aya.
Hawana ubaya.
Aya. Najua. Aya.
Thank you.
Aya. This is something to show you that our leaders have no respect for those who brought them where they are. They think they are starting Kenya today. They have no feelings for these people. They are calling a curse upon themselves because one day they will be old. And that's the day they realize that those who will be in power will not take care of them. And those who can hear me, let them know Kenya was not started the other day. There are people who fought, people like Arithuku, people like Mulama, people like who started this, people like Wayaki. Wayaki was buried alive in Sultan Ahmed. Do they know this? Do they want to appreciate? Did they even organize a day to say, let us remember those who brought us where we are? They will not go very far when you ignore those who brought you. I remember those people very well. Hey!
Nzuri sana maleo male.
Oh, bodo. Male. Machini. Mambo?
Tunaendelea vizuri.
Sisi tunatembea. Mungu asifiwe.
Asante sana.
Asante.
Maneno mnajua.
Pan-Africanism is something that should not get away from the minds of the Kenyan leaders and Africa as a whole. Because of the Berlin Conference, where these whites made and mapped subdivided Africa, it's time we came together. Pan-Africanism can be achieved if selfishness could be controlled. Because once one becomes a president of his country, he doesn't want is to hear of any other president. To implement Pan-Africanism will mean some people surrendering their part of their sovereignty, so that you can have one president and others surrendering part of their sovereignty to that president in the interest of the people, not the presidents. But in Africa, it appears it's the policy of the leaders, first and foremost, to impoverish the people to the extent that they look upon him as the provider and give them handouts. The African leaders are not interested in empowering those they lead. I don't know whether it's by coincidence or it's by nature of an African, I may say so, because you find it all over Africa. They impoverish the people they lead. They don't want them to be powerful. You see, they've learned this devilish, in my opinion, policy of impoverishing the people so that they can look upon you as the only Messiah. I don't like that at all, and I've never liked it. And they are not humble enough. They pretend to be humble. They are not humble enough. And for that reason, we are spending a lot of money employing bodyguards for the presidents and a big motorcade at the expense of the common man. They fear the very people they claim to be their leaders. Huyu mtu wa zamani namfahamu. Mara siku nyingi. Habari yako babu? Mzima rafiki yangu.
Hii ni kijana anaenda
I know.
You know that mzee.
Yeah, I know. Vincent alikufa. Alikuwa assistant minister.
Mimi ndio kijana yake.
Asante. Unakaa hapa?
Mimi nakaa na wananchi mzee.
Asante.
Na nakujua kabisa mzee, wewe ndio nilipigania sisi mpaka tukakaa hivi.
Asante. Asante. Asante.
I love you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. If there was any president who was sworn in, or rather won an election, with all the people happy, all the people giving goodwill, it's Kibaki in 2002. The question is, why was there no fights during those days? For the first time, Luos voted en masse. For the first time, Luyas voted en masse. And all other people voted. There was no problem. Why problem in 2007? Something went wrong. He abused that office. When he got into the seat, he could only think of kith and kin. The man we thought he would look after everybody's interest. And as a matter of fact, it was the other tribes that voted him into power, because the Kikuyus had split. They voted for Uhuru and some for him. So the bulk of the votes came from other tribes. And instead of taking that, he now immediately got into power. He went back to the cocoon of Kikuyism. And that was the beginning of sorrows. He could not get the same support in 2007. And that's why he could not dare go to Uhuru Park to be sworn in as a president. Then when he was sworn in 2002 at the National Park, this time he was sworn in darkness. That's the weakness of our brother, Bwana Kibaki. And the problems we've had, he can't get away with the innocent blood that was shed during that upheaval. Read Proverbs 6, you'll find God will avenge those who shed innocent blood for generations. I particularly praise Annan when he came in and said he realized this upheaval did not come overnight. There were some historical injustices which had been swept under the carpet. And people like myself and others, we used to raise them in Parliament. Nobody listens. We talked of land policy. It could not be discussed and reached, concluded, because it affected Kenyatta himself, a big land grabber. Today, even when you talk of land, it affects even Moi, who is a big land grabber. When Kibaki comes in, you cannot get it through. We wanted land policy so that we could know of the arable land, how much could one be allowed to own. Of the semi-arid, of the arid, and so forth. That policy is not there and is lacking up to date because those on the driving seat are themselves beneficiaries. So they don't want something like that. But this is what is building up. I'm realizing very late that what I fought for is not feasible. I may die before I see. I thought when I engaged the colonialists, the Africans will live the life of a Mzungu, because Mzungu has gone, we shall lift the people from the mud they are in to high. But then I find our own children, whom we contributed for their education, are the ones who are pushing the poor deeper into the mud. They want to stay on top of them. They are not paying back that commoner who paid from his tax to subsidize the education. Any university education is subsidized by wananchi. Instead of them helping them, they are ditching them. And that is what hurts me. That's what I regret I fought the Mzungu. But now I find the people I fought for are even worse than during the colonial days. That's my biggest regret. Habari mzee. Unakimbia? Habari yako? Pole. Habari yenu? Habari mzee. Kwa mzee gani? Unakula bwana, mimi na njaa, wewe kula tu. Nipe habari. Asante. Bahati yenye. Habari mzee? Waitwa nani? Maina. Mimi jina langu Shikuku. Hawa jamaa wajafunga mlango, watakuja anguka nje. Nikienda wataanguka. Hii bahati mbaya nimekuwa nimeshikwa na huyu. Mimi nilikuwa natoka prison. Huyu unaona huyo mtu? Alikuwa ameshika mimi, anasema toa pesa. Nikamwambia sina. Sasa tukaenda hapa bank, kapewa yeye, sina kitu. Huyu. Tumbo hajai, siku nyingine iko tu. Unajua hata kila leo, kesho utataka tena. Nimejaribu kujaza yangu, imenishinda. Nina miaka 76 na yangu haijajaa. Today you talk of corruption, but nobody ever mentioned or mentions who stood. I was a lone ranger and started talking about corruption. They will never mention the name of Shikuku. Today, the so-called committees to look into corruption, you will never find the name of Shikuku being proposed to be on the committee. I'm not asking for being a chairman of it, even a member, you will never find that. And those who are members of this corrupt committee, you can never, if you trace one who ever stood against corruption, I'll give you my only bull I have. How come they get their way there? Because the people who are supposed to eradicate it, who are supposed to expose it, they themselves are products of corruption. And even the president of parliament, if you talk about corruption in the government, this government didn't come from heaven. It was elected into position by the people of Kenya. So it's the people of Kenya who are corrupt, who elect corrupt leaders and then complain later. Because there's no time, you can check with the veterinary fellows, when a zebra will ever give a bath to a cat. A zebra will give a bath to a zebra, and a cat will give a bath to a cat. So those whom we are looking upon as corrupt in parliament, they are a reflection of yourself. It's you, through corrupt means, you've given kitu kidogo that made him or her go to parliament. Then, when he's eating, you take a thief and make him the manager of a bank. What do you expect? He'll steal the whole thing. Therefore, you must not make a thief to be a banker. It's the people of Kenya who will change Kenya, not the leaders. People must change by shunning thieves, by looking down upon anybody who is a thief. Today, if you are a thief in Kenya, you are revered. They say, huyu mwanaume aliba 10 billion, huyu mwanaume alichota. The common man is talking of chottering. He does not understand, or she does not understand, this 10 million or billion came from her tax, and that's why she's poor. I stayed alive and up to date because of the education I got in the seminary. One of the things you're taught in seminary is to be honest. And you should lead by example. You must be truthful. And of course, I told you, if you read the Bible, Proverbs 6, you'll find that one thing God hates most is lying. And that militated against my falling into this trap. I would not tell you a lie because I know lying and shedding innocent blood, God hates those. Mimi natembea tu.
Hata Kibaki haviku picha nyingi kama wewe.
Habari yako rafiki yangu? Mambo?
Yes.
Kibaki hawezi kutembea hapa. Si anataka bodyguard.
Si mimi ndio
na pia
si hata mimi ni bodyguard yako.
Bodyguard gani anakaa hapa? If you compare me with my contemporaries who grabbed, I'm surely poor. But I'm not poor compared to the common man. I wasted a lot of my time. I think I didn't waste. I think they're worth it. Worried about the problems of the people. Hey! Endumoyo! Doesn't matter where you come from, whether you're from Kwale, or from Turkana, or anywhere, any common man, I would die for him. Even to the extent that they used to call me the poor man's watchman.